Thanks for tuning in, team. In this video, I just wanted to go into a bit more detail on the platforms that I use for investing, Westpac and Stake. Now, I know I covered off in episode 1, but I just want to go into a bit more detail just to share some of the differences that make them unique and things that I think are important for people to be aware of before they start investing. Before that, roll that intro. Welcome back, team. If you're new, my name's George and welcome to Island Money. So in this video, I just want to go into a bit more detail on the two platforms I use to invest throughout my journey, Westpac Brokerage app and the Stake Brokerage app. Now there's some clear differences that I really want to pinpoint out to people, but overall, I just want to make sure you understand that I'm not a financial advisor, blah, blah, blah. Please do your own research, blah, blah, blah. And make sure that before you step into the investing world, you actually have a valid reason on why you want to start investing. All right, now that that's out of the way, team, let's focus on the Westpac Brokerage app. So when I kicked off my investment journey about 5 years ago, that was the first ever account I opened. So there's three major points that I want to bring to your attention. So right there, the first one, I was a Westpac customer, and it was so easy for me to open up the investment account. I already had an everyday account, a savings account, and when I put my interest in opening up a investment account, the hardest thing about it was that I had to fill out about 3 pieces of paper to the form, and then I sent that away, and it took roughly about 2 weeks to come back before it was actually approved. And then I could see that my investment account was right there underneath my other accounts on my online banking. So what does that mean? It means I can make transactions in and out really smooth. Just jump online. If I need money into my investment account, I just transfer it from my everyday account. It takes like a couple of seconds, and then I can start buying shares when the market's open. Vice versa, when I want to sell those shares and I receive those funds, I can then take it out of my investment account with a quick transfer, a few seconds, and it goes into my everyday account. So then I can withdraw it from the ATM or use it however I want. So it's very important that you understand that because it is a banking institution, you can usually link all those accounts that you have existing with your investment account. Number 2, it was free. So to open an investment account, 99.9% of the time, it will be free. Double check with your own banks, first of all, if they even offer the investment account. But if they do, I'm pretty sure it will cost you $0 to open, just like it cost me $0. Okay, so that's very important that you understand. To start investing, it's not going to cost you any money to open up an account. Okay, very important you understand that. Number 3, and probably the most important one that I want to highlight, and I believe I highlighted it slightly in episode 1 video, is that there are fees for you to trade. So every time you buy and sell a share on the Westpac app, it's going to cost you $19.95. Okay, let's say 20 bucks. Okay, that's to buy and to sell. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot if you're doing 1 or 2 trades a month, but if you're doing more than that, 2-3 trades a month, over the end of the year, you're going to have spent a couple of hundred, even more, on just fees, just trading. So you got to be prepared for that, okay? So those are the 3 major highlights I want to call out before you do your own research, okay? Is that it's a banking institution, so you can link any existing accounts you have to that. It's free, or well, it was free for me to open, and I'm 99.9% sure it is free to open an investment account with other banks as well. And usually with banking institutions, there comes quite high fees, okay? We were looking at $20 per trade, buy or sell. So those are the 3 major, I guess, unique points with the Brokerage app. Obviously being in Australia and having an account, a Westpac account in Australia, that gives me access to the ASX, which is the Australian stock market, okay? So there are other options in there to purchase international shares, but again, just comes with heavy fees. It's a lot more paperwork and forms, and it becomes a lot more difficult to apply for that account. So I'm not going to go into detail. Okay team, so the second app that I have access to that I use for my investing is called Stake. Now the uniqueness about Stake is that it gives you access to the US market even though I live here in Australia. So what that means is I can invest in some of the biggest companies in the world that are based in America, such as Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Tesla, that's a massive one, and Disney. You know, I'm pretty sure 99% of the viewers watching this video have heard of Disney, right? So that's what the Stake platform allows you to do, is invest in the US market. Now, it's important for my cookie brothers and sisters that live in Australia and New Zealand to understand that Stake is actually available in both countries. Feel free to Google stake.com.au or .co.nz to do your own research and find out a little bit about it as well, a bit more about it. Now, there's 3 points that I want to highlight, just like I did with the Westpac app, that I want to bring to your attention for Stake. So with the Stake app, the number one thing to remember is that just like Westpac, it is free. So for me to open up an international investment account, it costs me no money. All right, there's just a couple of forms online that you fill out. So it's even quicker than what when I applied for the Westpac app. It's just online. I think you have to provide some ID from memory. I've been with Stake for a while now, for a couple of years. They go through a thorough ID check to make sure you are who you are. And then once you're accepted, I think it takes like a couple of days and then they'll send you confirmation that you've been accepted into opening an account with them. Okay, so that's the number one, remember that it's free to start your investing journey. It's not going to cost you any money up front to open an account. Number two is that there's no brokerage fees, okay? So every time I buy or sell a share using Stake, it doesn't cost me any brokerage fee. That $20 that it costs me for buying Australian shares on the Westpac app doesn't exist with Stake, okay? So that's a very important thing to understand, is that you don't spend any money on brokerage fees, any transaction fees involving a broker, sorry. Now, it is important to understand though, there is a conversion fee for transferring money from your currency, your nation's currency, into the US currency, okay? Because it's a US stock market is what you got access to, it's gonna cost you money to put it into US dollars, okay? So when you open an account, and whatever dollar figure you have there sitting in your account is always USD, okay? So if you've got 10 USD dollars, by the time it gets to you, it either whatever the conversion rate is at the time, it doubles, triples, or 1.5. I don't know what it is, but usually for every dollar I spend in Australian dollars at the moment, I get roughly around 70 to 75 US cents. So that's the current conversion rate at the moment for me here in Australia. Okay, so you have to pay that conversion fee rate to transfer your money into USD. But once you start spending that money and buying shares of whatever company you want to own, it doesn't cost you any brokerage fees. So that's the beauty of Stake. That's what I love about Stake. And the third one is that, what is the third one? It's free. There's no brokerage fees. What's the third one? Oh man, I can't even remember. I'm sure there's a third one. I finally figured out what that number 3 was. That number 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh man, I knew there was a number 3. Alright. So, the third most important point to remember, okay, is that there's no minimum requirement spend when you're purchasing shares. Now, this is one thing important I forgot to mention with the Westpac Brokerage app, is that from my experience, I've noticed that every time I go to place an order to buy a certain amount of shares for under $500, it would reject my order. And I haven't found any information on the website as to why, but every time I lifted it up around $500 or more, then it would accept my order. So I'm assuming with the Westpac app, you have to spend a total value of at least $500 when you're using that app to buy shares. You can't just go and buy one share of Zip. Remember I mentioned Zip in episode 1? I think it was about $6 roughly. You can't just go and buy, or I can't just go and buy one Zip share. I find that my order continue is always getting rejected. So every time I went and spent and put $500 worth of value, so whatever that equals a certain amount of units of Zip, then it would accept my offer. So I found that a little bit difficult because, you know, I don't know about you, but I don't have $500 every time I want to go and invest and purchase shares. You know, I might have $50 here left over for the week, $100 here left over for the week, or whatever it is, just small amounts. And it makes it very difficult for me to go and buy shares through the Westpac app, as I noticed that those orders kept getting rejected. Anything above 500, when I was spending $500 or more, perfect, no issues. When I was trying to spend under that, it wouldn't accept my order. It always kept saying that there was a minimum requirement that wasn't met. So very important that you understand with stake, the minimum requirement is not $500. There's actually 10 USD, okay? Convert that into your currency wherever you live. Work that out. I'm sure it's nothing more than, you know, $20 wherever you're from. So that's important, guys, because again, as I mentioned, I don't have $500 lying around every month, you know, every week to say, I have, you know, $50 here lying around, $20 here, and it makes it very exciting because I can actually, if I'm not using it for anything else, I can actually go and purchase, you know, a fractional share using the stake account. So let's say, for example, to buy one Tesla share you've seen at the moment is, and I showed this in episode 1, is about $670 USD, $670 USD. But say I only had $330 dollars available, or once I converted it, it was 330 USD, right? So half of that Tesla price. I can still go and buy 50% of the Tesla share. So I'll own what they call a fractional share. So 0.5 of a Tesla. And then when I run into more money and another 330 USD and I go and purchase the other 0.5, once you add those two fractional shares together, I will then own one Tesla share. That example was based off the stock price not going up or down during that time, right? But what I'm trying to explain is that as long as you spend, the minimum price is $10 USD, you can buy fractional shares. So you can buy a certain percent of that whole share. And that helps people work towards owning, you know, one full share, okay? If the price of that share goes up and you only own a fraction of it, whatever happens, your value of that fractional share will go up as well, equivalent to how much you own, okay? So the beautiful thing about that third point, which I struggled to remember, is that you don't need a lot of money to start investing. And this is why I try to encourage my nieces to start investing. I've got a few older nieces that live in New Zealand. They're all working. I think one's at uni, bless her heart. I know she gets taken care of in terms of her scholarship and stuff. But if she was to put away, if they were to put away, you know, $50 a week and invest it into stake, into companies that they're familiar with, you know, all of them have iPhones or are aware of Apple. All of them follow, you know, Facebook, which is also a company you can own shares in using stake. So if they just started putting $50 away, using it like a savings account, right? And now they're my nieces and family, so you know it's okay for me to give them a little bit of advice. But I just want to explain how easy it is then for them to start investing and owning shares, because they might not own one share of that company straight away, but they can slowly build into owning, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 shares just by putting away a little bit of money, by owning a fraction at a time. So come back to my 3 points with stake. It's free to open. There's no brokerage fees. You just pay the conversion rate fee to get your money from your national currency into USD. And then the third one is that there's a minimum spend of 10 USD. So you don't need a lot of money to start investing. Seriously, you can really treat it, I kind of, again, this is my humble opinion, is I look at it as a savings account for me and my kids in the future. So, because I can afford to put away, $50, $100 now and then and invest it in stake. And that's why stake is my main brokerage account that I use for my investing. It is Australia. It is here in Australia, so it's an Australian company, but again, you can access it in New Zealand as well. So yeah, those are just my tips, guys. I wanted to go a little bit more into detail about the differences between the two platforms I personally use. I'm pretty sure there's hundreds of platforms out there that allow you access to the stock market to start investing, but those are the two that I use and have been using on my journey. So yeah, I just wanted to do some justice and tell you a little bit more detail about them. Thanks team, that's all I got for you tonight. I just wanted to keep this short and sharp and as I say, go into a little bit more detail for you on the platforms that I use. Remember, don't take this as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I love sharing my knowledge with you guys and my journey, and thank you so much for all the views. I don't do this for the views. I think I've had about 50, 60 odd views. I try not to keep track of it, but I can see people are watching it, and I really thank you for doing that. Again, this is just me trying to bring more awareness to the Cook Island community, at home, in Raro, all around the outer islands, in New Zealand, here in Australia. Just want to share and bring awareness that there are other ways you can invest your money rather than just continuously chasing get rich quick schemes, which I've seen a few of my friends, people I know do that from the islands. It's hard for me to know that I'm doing this for myself and I see other people doing that and getting hurt, and I want to empower them and share my knowledge so that they know that there's other options out there. Definitely no guarantees in this space of anything going positive, but as long as you do your research, you make sure you understand what investing is all about and why you want to get involved. That's all I can bring, is more awareness to this space. So again, I really appreciate the views. Thank you so much. Look after each other in these rough times. Be kind, and remember, I'm always here. Love you guys.